Hello, everyone. I'm Heidi Ferguson, and next to me is Fadesta Ramsey. Do I need to repeat that? Okay, we're good? Okay. And this is Fierce Honest Hearts. And we are here today. It's the middle of May, and it's pretty toasty. I mean, today it's outside. It's a nice day. It's lovely. The sun is shining. Humidity's a little bit lower on the East Coast, and I have to tell you, I am kind of bracing myself for an intense weekend because it's going to be in the 90s. Oof, yeah, yeah. So let's see. So we weren't with you last week, and I think that's where I will begin. I think I shared with all of you a few weeks ago that I have been moving through some grief, and I was hit pretty hard last week. And so decided to take a break because that's really what I needed. And because when we show up here, we want to be as present and 100% ourselves as we can be. And so, given that I was where I was with my grief, I didn't have it. And I noticed it was affecting me physically. So I had a lot going on, not just emotionally. And today's a better day. I've been on Zoom a lot today, so I might talk about that. And let's see what's happening, like in the moment. Let's see. Well, for myself, we talk about the sacred pause and using that as a tool. I have been kind of using that and then taking the break off a little bit and kind of testing the waters in some situations and some conversations and relationships. And I like that I'm doing this. I appreciate that I trust myself, that I know that I can handle it. And then I know when I need to apply the brake a little bit more, when I need to release it a little bit more by listening to my intuition and to really paying attention what's going on for me. And I'm also, the other thing that I'm able to do is gauge where the other person is coming from, because I don't want to ever pressure anyone into a discussion they don't want to have, or something that they might want to, not talk about, or that might be too hard in the moment. So yeah, I'm feeling into that a little bit more. And so being more mindful, I would say being more mindful and aware. And and it all comes back to really feeling into what's important to me, how I feel inside, because my intuition has never steered me in the wrong direction. It's my North Star all the time. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, particularly where you were at last week, and our open policy here that, like, yes, we want to bring it, and sometimes it's too raw, and that's okay too. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And the sacred pause requires self-regulation. Right. And there's a lot of people who think, I'm feeling something, I'm going to react. And so to go, I'm feeling something, let me feel it, but I'm not quite going to open my mouth yet. Right? I think that bridge is self-regulation, like finding a way to move through it without kind of dumping it. It's a big skill. So I want to celebrate you there.
Oh.
Yeah. And I want to talk more about that too. But for me, as I shared with you, I'm actually having a 5 p.m. cocktail, which is rare for me because I graduated from the relationship school's couples certification.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I love that I get to celebrate here with you, because otherwise it's like back to work, because we're all online right now. And I think just really like my heart's just stirred with so much gratitude that A, there's a school that does this, right? B, that I have had mentors who have spent decades creating their own education, like learning from all these amazing humans and then bringing it all together and distilling it, which is such a gift for us. And then I guess a deeper gratitude to myself, because when I was turning 40, I was like, I can't do finance anymore. And I couldn't foresee doing it another 30 years. And somehow turning 40, that decade number brought it up. And making that promise on my 40th birthday, which is now almost 3 years ago, that I would find what it is I'm passionate about. And then I'd switch careers, as crazy as everyone else thought I was, or I guess not to live my life through someone else's limitations, basically. And like 2 years and 9 months later, what our teacher calls an equivalent of like a master's in interpersonal psychology. So it's like all the amazing, juicy things to me of neuroscience and attachment science and how our animal brains react to each other. And just I feel really like rooted in my seat today. I feel really like tall in my spine, and that place of like, this was a hell yes, and I took it. I took the shot. So that feels really good.
Cheers. I love it. Yeah.
And then the beautiful surprise of, I love individual coaching. I love one-on-one. I think somewhat as an intro extra, the one-on-one feels really sweet and comforting to me. And something I learned in couples coaching, right, having practice for 9 months, was how much leverage you have when both people are in the room. Because then at least you can be like, is that true what they're saying? Is that your experience too? Versus just having, I'm going to say, one person's experience, one person's truth. You're actually getting them to do that work. So that feels really good. And it feels like both a finish line and a starting line, which I love. You know me.
I do.
Like, ooh, what do I create from here? 2 hours later, right? And then as you were talking about the sacred pause, I was thinking about a few conversations I've had recently with people I really care about that were crunchy. And having this, I don't have it often, but it's up right now, like a little bit of a vulnerability to even checking the texts or the calls. I don't know if you've experienced that, where it's like, it was crunchy before and I still advocated for myself, but I still don't know if these people are going to get the memo, right? So it's like, I'm setting boundaries, I'm setting boundaries, I'm setting boundaries, but now I'm a little cringy at like, I'm a little gun shy, I guess.
Can you say a little bit more? Because, you talk about the boundary. You're like, I set boundaries. And then did you also just say you feel a little crunchy, or the situation feels a little?
I feel good about advocating and setting boundaries. Thanks for the clarifying question, by the way. And there's a part of me that cringes when there's incoming communication, because I'm not quite sure yet if the emotional maturity level is there. Right? It's like, you can set boundaries. I can set 20 boundaries with someone, but it's also like, how are you going to come in now? Mm-hmm. So a little gun shy there. Mm-hmm. It's just interesting because that's not often for me, that I'm like a little avoidant of like, do I want to open this voicemail right now? Where is my head at? But the sacred pause of, where am I at? Uh-huh. And I think, am I strong enough right now that if this person did the thing again, and I hear that voicemail, that I can handle it? right? So it's an inner gauging. Am I empowered enough? Am I stable enough? Am I strong enough to listen to this? And I actually listened to it right before our call, because then I thought, I'm with you, and like, you know, there will be comfort and soothing if it did go bad. And it actually was fine. But I just want to name that little avoidance, scary place in me. That's like, I set clear boundaries. Now will someone actually show up?
Yeah.
Or will they do the thing and then like I'm discouraged, right? So the sacred pause of even listening to a message, right? There's the sacred pause of what are we going to say, which I think is the containing boundary. What am I going to say? What am I going to not say? I'm going to contain it. And then there's a sacred pause of the protective boundary. Like, what am I going to let in right now while I'm tender, while I'm celebrating?
Right.
Right. What am I going to let in?
Right.
I just thought that was important to share, because it's rare for me to feel a little intimidated or avoidant in my relationships. So I'm feeling a lot of compassion for people who tend to be more avoidant, because I feel like what it is, which is like a little bit of I'm scared I'm going to get yanked emotionally.
Sure. And I think just for further clarification for those who are listening, when you talk about one of the things I've noticed is that you're naming your boundary as the thing, right? So by the thing, when you say, are they going to do that thing again? When you say the thing, that what you're saying is, are they going to cross my boundary that I have really been clear about? So here's the thing in life, right? Like, we can set as many boundaries, we can state our boundaries however we want to, whatever context we want to put that in. Yes, we can do that. And it's great to do that. It's really, and I would say it's for me, it's one of the most important things, because at least that I can say to myself, well, I know that I said that to them. And it's a whole other thing whether or not they respect them and actually listen. And so not only listen, but putting their whatever they've heard into action, meaning not crossing the boundary.
Exactly. Yeah, and I know, you and I have talked about this offline too, this place of we're learning how to flex that muscle of setting the boundary. And sometimes we got to set the boundary multiple times, right? And then I think my fear comes in, like, at what point have I done it enough that now there's a level beyond enforcement. Now there's a level that's, either demanding or disconnecting.
Yes.
Right? Like, I think that for me was a little bit of the like, am I going to have to enforce something that I don't want to enforce?
Right.
Especially when it's a high stakes relationship.
Especially when it's high stakes. Yes.
Yeah. When it's low stakes, you're like, okay, that person, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. But the more important that relationship is, I think the more interpersonal stress
for sure
it creates.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh my God, but I want to be good to you, and I want to be in good relationship with you, and I want to have goodwill, but like, we gotta play better in the sandbox.
Yeah.
And then what happens if they don't? Right.
Yeah. And so this just came to me. I just literally in the moment got a download. When we do state our boundaries to whomever that is, to whoever those people are, I wonder if it would be beneficial to have a dialogue about it and just say, do you have any questions?
Damn, that's fierce. I like that.
I've stated this, and I'm being as clear as I can be. And so I just want to make sure that you understand. And I also want to know, I'm curious enough to know if you have any questions about these.
That's like next level ninja move. Yeah.
Right.
It's one thing to set it, and we often stop at that. But what you're saying is, hey, do we have a shared agreement about this?
Yes.
Are
Yeah.
we going to play by this playbook now?
Yes.
Are
Yeah.
you planning on honoring this
Right.
boundary?
Right.
Ooh,
Because I think
really?
because here's the thing, Fedesta, I have, of course, I have put up, I have stated boundaries in my life to certain, to the people that need them.
Mhm.
And because I've done that, I have assumed whatever, like I almost said stupidly assumed, but whatever. I've assumed that they would act on that. And I can no longer make that assumption, because just because someone hears something doesn't mean they actually listened
Mhm.
and perceived it the way that I meant it to be understood and perceived. So that's the reason for what I feel would maybe be a more beneficial outcome.
I love that. It's having your back. It's having the back of the relationship, right?
Right.
Yeah. And you're actually, this is dominoing into something else, which is really interesting for me to think about, which is, okay, there's naming boundaries, there's enforcing boundaries, there's then getting shared agreement. Like this boundary, this is vital for us, right? Then there's this piece, it's obviously the other person's side of the street mostly, which is they could have heard it, they could have agreed to it, they could have said, I get that that's important for you. And then they've got to deal with their nervous system that does the janky shit anyway.
Sure.
Right? Like that's their side of the street. And I think I would add this little addendum to that convo, which is, and what do you need from me in order to be able to hold this boundary? Because maybe they need reassurance, maybe they right, it's like you're wanting to give them capacity to give you that boundary,
Sure.
which means their nervous system might need a little something.
Right.
And I can give you an example. My partner and I, we have different attachment styles, and where we're working to become secure, he's a little bit more of an island, I'm a little bit more of a wave, which means I get anxious and want to reconnect in a conflict, and he gets anxious and wants to get out of there during the conflict. And our shared agreement, because that created havoc, right? If he just provocatively walked out of the room, like I was going to follow and get loud, right? Mm-hmm. And scared. And so our shared agreement is, and it came from this question of what do you need so that I can go take space? Because I need to take space and get my number down. And you need to feel like we're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Right. So our shared agreement is him being able to say, I need to go take 20 minutes. I'll check in after 20 minutes. We'll work this out. And then I'm like, okay, I'm not 100% relaxed, but I'm at least 50% more relaxed. And then he's gifted me with capacity to sit for those 20 minutes and wait versus follow him into his man cave and keep talking because I'm scared, right?
Right.
So I'm just excited because this might be that ticket that's like, and what do you need from me in order not to do that thing I've asked you not to do? Like that's how we can care for our boundaries, like another tier.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would also say to give the boundary some space and the conversation some space with this other person. Mm-hmm. In your own head, just know, and I would say this is a safe assumption to make. Just assume that they're probably going to mess up.
That they're going to mess up with.
That they're going to mess up. So just, and if they don't, great. But just say, okay, they're probably going to mess up, right? And so the reason I'm saying that is because, and I'm really saying it for myself, which is to remember to have grace for that person as just as much as you would want to have grace for yourself if you were the person that was hearing the boundaries. Oh my, because I don't want anyone, I would, especially like you said, a high stakes relationship, I don't want anyone to feel like they have to walk on eggshells with me.
Right. Or that they might lose you.
Or that they might lose me for any reason. Mm-hmm. So they know it is okay if there's an error made. It's okay. And we can repair this.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow, what a fact. I'm so glad we're talking about this. Yeah. So, I'm going to pivot, but I'm going to kind of stay in this trajectory, if you will. So, next weekend, Labor Day weekend, Fedesta and I are leading, we're doing an online class, right? With the Friends Conference of Religion and Psychology. So it's Quakers, woo, Quakers, the Quaker community. But it's open to everybody. And what we are teaching that weekend is authentic relating, even when it's hard. So I think you can probably see the connection here with what we're talking about. And what so one of the things that, so anyway, I heard about the conference and I was asked to be a leader, and I was just like, gosh, what do I want to teach? And then I was like, I think there's just so much juice in what we do, the conversations we have here on the podcast. So I was like, I want to do this with support and with someone that I love and trust. And wouldn't it be fun to do it with one of my besties? So I asked Fedesta if she would join me and co-teach this course. And she, I mean, I don't even know if you had a moment's hesitation, but you were like, yes, because it didn't feel like any hesitation at all. So I was really grateful for that. And then and in the interim between asking you and the first time we met to have a meeting about it, I was like, oh, we've never taught together, so I don't know how it is to work with her in this capacity, right? And so, is it okay that I share this?
Of course,
Okay.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm so glad that I could laugh at myself. Oh my God, and see my own shit. It's just perfect, right? So anyway, so I am a preparer. I would say I'm an over preparer, right? And I think I asked you back in March or April, probably March or April when I heard about this. And so, okay, and we both have stuff on our plates and blah blah blah. And I was a little like, shouldn't we start preparing? I was like, I know she's busy, we still, anyway. And so we met for the first time a couple weeks ago, right? Mm-hmm. And then you shared with me on one of our just private calls that you have some other things going on. And I'm like, okay, is she gonna be able to do everything? Right? And so I asked you for another check-in because so just so our audience knows, we have our weekly podcast where we share and we're just ourselves and whatnot and are authentic, but we also have a weekly call where we check in with each other and just kind of check in and have a besties call and that kind of thing. And we had one of those, and I messaged you over the weekend. I said, could we have another check-in? Yes. And so I brought this to your attention. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it the best that I can. And it was interesting because I found that, I mean, it's conflictual in a sense, like, because it's not completely smooth. So there's a little bit of rough edges and crunchiness and whatnot. And I also felt like, I also knew that because you have your own back, I have my own back, we, and our common goal is this course, to do it to the best of our ability for our guests, and, that it will work it out, we'll figure it out. So what we learned is that we have two different styles, similar but different, right?
Yeah.
And I was bringing my anxiety. Like, I was bringing my anxiety, and I felt like you held it really well. And And so I mean, it took a little while to kind of navigate and figure things out and whatnot. We got on the same page. We weren't that far off, actually,
But it was important.
but it was important to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And then, so that was actually Sunday. Then we already had a check-in call scheduled for Monday.
Mhm.
And I'm one of those people, I don't sweep shit under the rug. I just won't do it. And so I wanted to make sure, like when we got off the call on Sunday, I thought we're good. Like I felt good. It felt like we're on the same plane and
Mhm.
everything, but I wanted to check in before we started our call Monday. So I said to you, if there's anything to clean up, I want to do that just to kind of get that, cleaned up and clear and whatnot. And you really you appreciated that. You're like, thank you. And we had a few things to talk about, and I was like, okay, we're good. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is because there's so much that I've learned, not only from you but from us together collective as friends. And I don't want to even, it's not even that it's hard, it's just that because I care so much, I want to always know that I'm good, you're good, and not in a fake way, but that we really are cohesive.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm going to stop talking because I feel like
No, I love it. Thank you for like prefacing and giving sort of the details, right? Because what I found so amazing about that conversation was when I slowed down enough, which I don't always do, it made all the sense in the world that you would want more prep, right? Both in like being that planner type, and less of the like, I don't know, I'm going to call it like the musician improv type. And then also what we talked about, where it's like, I'm swimming in this every day. So like, in terms of my like, oh, I could do that on a weekend, no problem, versus I've been in your shoes, right? Where it's like someone else does meditations every day and they're asking me to do an opening meditation. I'm like, hold on, I don't do this, right?
Yeah.
And not to say that you don't teach and like obviously live in the questions of healthy relationship, because you do. So it was really cool for me to go for all my self-awareness, and this is where I can laugh at myself, that I wasn't tracking you there, right? I was trusting us to figure it out 100%, but I wasn't tracking, like if I took 10 minutes to think about Heidi, I would conclude that we should start earlier on the planning, right? I would conclude that you're not going to want to wing it, right? And I would conclude that like we'd actually both be served by a timed agenda and like a really good holding container by that. So it was really cool to kind of be like, yeah, there is still work to be done in like sharing your shoes and considering you. Even if I think I consider you, right? There was like this other level of considering, particularly in a collaboration. And because we both want it to be to serve as many people as possible and as deeply as possible. And then I hold something we just do naturally, which is just, I so appreciate, which is we stand for us, right? Like you stand for you, but you also stand for me, and then you stand for us, right? And same here, it's like, well, if it doesn't work for you, but it's fine for me, well, it doesn't work for us.
Right.
It just doesn't. And I think about this with couples, right? And someone's like, well, that's not really a big deal to me. I'm like, okay, but it's impacting your person. So it's actually not working. If you know what I mean? It's like there's no win. If you're getting anxious and I'm being aloof about it, like there's no win. So it helped me step into like, oh, okay, I can offer that. I can make time for that. I want to ensure that you feel ready and capable. And truth be told, it's probably good for me too. So it's a gift to bring in that conversation. And I think one thing I brought up was like the gentle on-ramp. Like, can you let me know and set contexts? And then like I could be on it instead of like maybe pivoting my brain a little bit to something I didn't expect. And then
about the conversation. Yes. I was going to
right,
yes. Yeah.
Right. We even got into like care instructions. Right here, you were sharing some care instructions of yours, and then I got to share some care instructions of mine. And that means the next time, right? Because there will be a next time. We're not always gonna be attuned to each other.
Yeah.
Chances are we're gonna miss each other again along the years, right?
Yeah.
And that's not a problem. The problem is if we're not willing to turn towards each other and like collaborate.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were so great at just sharing without blame, right? You shared without having it fall on reactionary ears, right? You did it in a way that felt important, but didn't feel blamey.
Thank you.
Right? Which allowed me the capacity, allowed me the capacity to hear it. It's like, oh, you're making a really important request, not, right? Yeah. Yeah. It just felt really good to like rest in that with you. Because this was like, as far as being crunchy, it was so minimally crunchy.
I know.
Because it was us. And, you know, I love that you came in on Monday saying, let's check in, because I had the same thought like, hey, there was an instance in there where I got defensive. Like, is there anything we need to clean up there? Because I caught it. Right. And I don't want you to feel like, great, now I didn't get heard. You just defended yourself or you justified. Right?
Yeah. So thank you for that feedback. And I want to add to that, which is I've watched you model that so often and so beautifully. And because I've been a witness to that modeling, I thank you, because I was like, God, I want to do this as well as I can. And it's because I've watched you model it with not just with me, but with other people. And I'm like, wow. So I wanted to say that. And I also wanted to comment for our audience about, you said you felt you wanted to check in because you felt like you had gotten a little defensive. And, and my response was, I was kind of expecting that. I was, because at the crux of who we are, we're human. We're human. We have our feelings. We have a lot that we're attending to, as we are not only listening to something that might feel a little, but also like attending to, oh my gosh, how's this affecting me? And how am I going to react? And all of that, right? So I just want to say this to the general public, whoever is, you would think we're so someday we're going to have 3 million followers, right? So
we got Carlene with us. I love it.
Oh, good. But so what I was going to say is that, just know that you can have these conversations that are challenging or feel a little crunchy, and bring your humanity. Like, know that the person, or at least I hope the person in front of you that you're having the conversation with, can hold that space for you, hold space for you as a human, because nobody's perfect. We all kind of have our stuff, whatever's going on for us. And I would say what I learned a lot from that conversation. And what really sticks out to me is that when I ask you to, when I ask, can we do a check-in? If there, unless it's just a girly check-in, whatever, but if there's something more specific, to first kind of name that and just say, this is what I want to talk about. Is it okay for you? Because we didn't have to necessarily do it on Sunday. We could have, done another day, but that was really helpful. because it gives the person listening on the receiving end just an idea of what's going on instead of being surprised by it.
And then working through the nervous system.
And
right?
then, yeah, because to be able to do that ahead of time, you're like, okay, I'm prepared, I'm ready, we can launch. And because more is going to come up always.
Totally. Yeah. And I think, you know, I do this in my partnership, especially, which is to set context and then to get buy-in, right? Because it could be like it's just 11 p.m. on a Wednesday and Richard's tired. And so me blasting into something at that point might not bode well for either of us, right? Versus him being like, you know what, I could be available at lunch tomorrow to hear it, right? And then it's also setting up that the conversation is done at a time that actually might serve, right? Yeah, I love that. I think what I got was, there's so many things, but again, the power of having that conversation, seeing each other more deeply, and then having even more trust built. Because I feel like you and I trust you, right? I trust you. I trust your intentions. I trust, like, there's goodwill and benefit of the doubt constantly flowing through. And we went a little deeper.
Yes, we did.
We did. So to me, there's like a real promise there that, like, even through the uncomfortable convo, there's like this untapped place you don't get to until you're listening and repairing with each other. Thanks, friend. Thanks for bringing that too. It's important.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad that we I'm glad that we had an opportunity to share it here, and hopefully that supports someone who, you know, need to hear it or wants to hear more. Yeah, that's great. So anyway, do we want to talk about next weekend? Do you want to say something about
it? Yeah. I love this conference. It's called the Neurobiology of Spirit. You know, that just, I'm geeking out on that. And of course, having people like Stephen Porges and stuff speaking. And then our little realm, right, with our interest group of authentic relating, which is what we model here, but then to also give practical tools and practice time so that people can do those few first push-ups, right, in a safe container with people who are trying to learn the same thing. I think that's such a blessing.
Yeah, and I'm also appreciating how in our collaboration, how we have opened the dialogue to bounce off of each other, but also naming and recognizing our separate gifts, and then the gifts that we bring together, you know, kind of collab on. I think is a really it's a really great thing. And I think we have, I mean, last count, I mean, I think we have 9 spots open, right? 9 spots open. So we're keeping it pretty small. We have 9 spots open, and we're really excited about it. So and it's really inexpensive. So
yeah, I think the registration is somewhere in like the 75 for like 4 days of really incredible content.
Yeah. And then besides our, you know, our course, what's the guy's name and his wife?
Porges.
Yeah. They're doing the so they're meeting with the group at large. So it'll be online as well as in person. So there's some courses taking place in Pendle Hill, Pennsylvania, and also online. So you'll have probably 2 Zoom links that you'll need, ours and then another one, and that'll be given to you. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting, fascinating, yummy kind of weekend
I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited for it. And I think, you know, this place too, just for those of you wondering if it's the place for you, right? There's obviously going to be the bigger conversations going on with the panel speakers. And then our interest group is going to have both knowledge, right? Like some relationship education, understanding of your own nervous system, your needs, how to communicate stuff when it's really hard. And I just think it's invaluable to then go practice. Because you may not have someone in your life that's just going to know this and be able to practice with, but in this container, you're going to also get to see what your body does.
Yeah.
What your nervous system does when you try to practice this, right? So demystifying, it's one of my favorite parts is demystifying what happens to you so you can track yourself. You can go, oh yeah, okay, this is normal for me. Here I get nervous, here I get tongue-tied, here I get timid. And then you've got data.
Yeah.
Got data to work with. Yeah, anything else? I think I'll put the link into our, you know, our Facebook
Okay.
for this podcast.
And then I'll put it on our YouTube channel.
Okay, yeah. So if you are interested or you have questions, feel free to reach out because we'd love to have you there. And if you like the conversations we have here, we're going to go, it's going to be a deep dive in those sessions.
Yeah.
I'm so psyched about.
Yeah.
And thank you too, because in you naming your need of wanting to have a co-facilitator and not like hold that whole thing on your own, I feel really gifted with an opportunity to collaborate with you, serve some people, and I don't know, just have a joyful, this is my mountain, so like I just have a joyful time swimming in community around this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like a triple gift and it hasn't even begun.
I know. Yeah. You know, and also the people that, I mean, you know, I don't know everyone, but I know Ramona, who we had on last time as our guest. She's a big part of this conference and she's doing a piece. Yeah, and I'm excited to you know, to meet other facilitators, other people who are teaching the yeah, it's just going to be a lot of good, just really good.
And I want to put a shout out to all the like introverts who don't want to go out when everyone's Memorial Daying, like us. So this might be a place for you to still be in community, but not be stuck with like the jet skis and like the 100,000 people trying to get to the beach. And and you can do that the weekend after when everyone's done, you know.
The Memorial Day weekend on the beach is going to be tight, I think.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yay. I'm curious, you know, I mean, we've had our check-ins and stuff, but I'm also curious, is there something you're wanting to hold as like inner work this week? And I've never asked that, but
is there something
that you're wanting to like hold or be held in as you, I imagine it's inner work often, right? Like, oh, I'm really trying to work through this money mindset or this boundary thing or whatever. But is there something that you would like me to be tracking you around that you might want support with, or just like accountability or witnessing?
actually, so I don't even know if I'm going to answer that question because I have a curiosity.
Yeah.
I think it was the last time we recorded and you said something and I was just like, what? So I'm curious. you said something along the lines of you're wanting to go deeper, be more, you didn't use the word vulnerable, but that's kind of the way that I understood it.
Yeah.
And because and the reason, so when Ramona was on last time, it was a pretty juicy conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, after I got off, I was like, oh my God, I just shared with whoever's listening that I can orgasm easily. Oh, like what? Right? And I just said it again. not to brag, but it was part of that conversation. So anyway, when we got off,
Mm-hmm.
we got off the call, we chatted a little bit, and that's when you said, I'm. Do you remember this? Do you
Mm-hmm.
remember saying this?
Mm-hmm.
So my curiosity. So I don't know if this is even connected to you tracking me, but I'm curious. So maybe this is one thing we can track each other.
Okay.
I guess my question is, how deep are you willing to go? Like, what are you willing to reveal to our audience? Like, what are, and do you have boundaries? Like, do you know that and knowing that those boundaries can stretch, right? Because I feel like we've been doing this for, I think this is 75. I think so. I know. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, and we've both really grown a lot, and we've really expanded ourselves. And I'm like, I can't believe I said that out loud at times, And so I'm curious, given what you said, if you've thought any more about that and what that might look like, or what the experience
there's always more.
Feel like.
Right. There's always more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I can name my boundaries, which is when it has to do with others.
Uh-huh.
I think that for me is a place of integrity. That's a place of like, it's not my story to tell. It's not my news to share. Right. Like, and so I have a certain level of like holding confidence when, even though it might impact me, but like, let's say the news isn't out yet, that's a place where I'm like, I don't mind sharing, but I don't want to share on behalf of others. So that's a boundary. But I think everything else, I would love to be in that place. And I'll share it here because I was a little bashful to share it on our call with Ramona for whatever reason. I was like, oh my God, we're talking about orgasms. It was just like, I was like, okay, we're doing this. What came up for me was going, I used to have a more regular schedule with orgasms when I lived on my own because, well, I could and I did and whatever. And I was looking at like somewhere along the lines of cohabitating with my amazing man, I defer to like, I'll have orgasms when we have sex, right? Which works, right? But depending on our weeks and how busy we are, and we're both entrepreneurs, and sometimes we're tired by Friday night and all of that, it had kind of fallen off my radar.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't tracking that I kind of, and I didn't defer to him, but I just deferred to when we have sexy time, so we call it. Like that's when I'll get those good vibes, right? The good serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, all the things. Uh-huh. And then when you were talking and Ramona was talking, I was like, I literally in my head, my like little animation was like, wait a minute. I could be doing that every day, regardless. When did I forget that was an option? It was just a very interesting moment of like something got automated. Uh-huh. And I wasn't paying attention. So that was the thing from that conversation where I was like, I could remedy that up quite quickly, you know? And especially hearing the Ramona share about how that is connected to our power and our aliveness and like our joy as women, I was like, ooh, okay, I'm gonna need to prioritize that. For me, and actually for my whole world, because if that's going to make me feel more rapture and aliveness and like more of my goddess energy, that is going to benefit every freaking person that crosses my path.
Yep.
Including the stranger at the grocery store.
Yep.
Because I'm going to be in a place that is radiating something.
Sure.
Something good. Yeah. So does that answer a question?
It answers a question.
And I love it. I love that, particularly as women, right? Because some of this has been taboo for so long, for whatever reasons.
Yeah, let's just not even, yeah.
But it's like, wait a minute, hang on. This is important. This is important that we check in on our autonomy and our sovereignty and our happiness in this female form that we've been given. And you, my friends, I'm going to volley the ball over the net.
Go for it.
I know that you can go, as you did live, right? To be more vulnerable sometimes than me. And I get curious about the vulnerability hangover for you. Like when you do share like that, how do you work through any, oh my God, I said that kind of vulnerability hangover?
Yeah. So as you know, I listen. So I typically the next day, I rewatch our podcast and I actually take notes. So I journal. I mean, I take notes about it because I love our conversations. I don't need to say
this about you.
I love them so much and I learn so much and I'm like, wow, I can't. And I have to tell you, I honestly, it's hard for me, even though we're doing it, we've done it, I cannot wrap my head around some of the things we've talked about. Because it's important stuff. It just is. And I'm like, I am honored to be able to have a conversation like this. And it's with you. And to, yeah. Anyway, so how do I handle that? So it didn't, I have to tell you last week or 2 weeks ago, when I shared with the world how easily I can orgasm, I felt no shame. First of all, let me just clear that. So I feel no shame about my body. I'm okay to talk openly about my sexuality. I really don't. Like I'm just going, if you want to ask me, but it's not like I'm not necessarily going to offer like I did my orgasm situation. But anyway, so how do I handle a vulnerability hangover? I'll tell you. So do you remember a couple months ago when we had Lindsay on, and I don't remember the topic, but I did text the two of you and I just said, I'm feeling a little bit vulnerable. And I waited almost 4 days to rewatch the podcast. Because I honestly don't remember exactly what it was that I had shared and I felt so, oh my gosh, about. But when I rewatched it, I was like, what's the big deal? Like, I think rewatching it and taking notes helps me. It's definitely supportive. And then if I still can't get through it, I would definitely let you, and or if it's Lindsay, whatever. Because I feel like between the two of you, even if she's not a guest, if she's just watching the podcast, I appreciate her perspective too. I like Lindsay's perspective on things. Yeah. I really do. I trust it, and I don't know what else to say. I really appreciate her perspective on how she perceives and has this way to see things from many different angles. And I'm like, wow. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, I guess, and I second you on just trusting Lindsay's perspective and her vantage point from the work she's done. I'm curious how you held yourself through those 4 days.
How did I hold myself?
You let us know, which was, I think, part of holding, right? It's like not being alone in it, not being isolated in it.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly, but I would say probably not well. Probably not well. And given my coping strategies for wanting to numb myself, I probably drank a little bit, and I also probably did my best to distract myself with videos or computer games or anything to not be still. Because, if I'm still, I have all this shit that I'm like, oh no, I don't want to deal with this. That's, yeah.
So I hear, like, in my lingo, I guess, like you auto-regulated, right? You helped yourself along by staying a little busy until you could actually look at it.
Yeah.
And then when you looked at it, it wasn't as big of a thing as maybe you perceived in real time.
Yes.
It's really cool. Yeah, I love that we're sharing that with the audience, because I imagine it's true for many people.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for, again, that vulnerability, because it's rare for you to have a vulnerability hangover. And so
I know. Oh, God.
it really is. Like, you're just kind of like an open book. And so it's like, if something, someplace, had you feeling like squirmish, it's cool to know your process. And I think I would relate to that process. A little bit of avoidance, auto-regulating, till I'm more self-regulated to take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds normal, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you, friend. Yay! I've got the cards out.
It is 6:00.
I know. And I want to thank Carlene, because she's been rocking it here with us.
Oh, hi.
Time.
Where is she? Where is she in the world?
She is, I want to say, definitely in Hawaii. I want to say Maui right now. Carlene, you can correct me if that's changed. But thank you for being with us and joining us in this beautiful way. It's such an honor to have, I think of Carlene as one of our wise elders, and it's just really sweet to have that energy here.
Well, she's definitely one of our regulars.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
The Big Island. That's what she said.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Carly.
Thank you for joining us every week, Carly. We really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. As much as you can make it. Yeah.
All right. You ready?
Oh, we're doing the and?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. For you, my friend, middle finger.
Okay.
This one? So there's no magic card gifts. Oh, look at that. Okay. We might have answered this. Let me know. What's the greatest gift I've given you?
What's the greatest gift you have given me? Let's see. I would say I'm a little distracted because there's some really loud music right now. Can you hear that? Okay. They're leaving. Okay. I would say the best gift that you've given me is, so it isn't just one thing.
I know. I'm trying to think it through too.
So I would say kindness, the way that you hold space and listen, the way that you reflect back so beautifully, and so for me, I know that you listen, but to have when the way that you reflect back is reassuring. It's super reassuring that not only have you heard me, but that you really get me. And because I think we go through life we assume people understand us, and people are looking through their own lens and listening through their own filters at things, right? So when you reflect back, I'm like, wow, she really got that. I love that you had that ability. Um, and then the way that you model your softness and yeah, I would say, and I think I've said this before, I know that I have softened because of your modeling of it, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm like just soaking that up. That feels like verbal sunshine
Hmm.
that can like pour into my heart. Thank you.
And I want to share one last thing. So when we get on our calls, not here, but our private calls, and you
I come in and I melt.
and you brrr, and you purr, oh my God, I'm like, that's just the sweetest. It's just, oh yeah. Oh my God. Because I know, like, that just reaffirms that you feel safe with me. And that's another gift unto itself. Yeah. Thank you for all of that. Yeah.
Thank you. That was just so incredibly powerful to receive and to hear. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm with you because I was like, the greatest gift, I have to put it all into one thing. And if I had to, that's hard. And I will say it's the kind of acceptance that I think I've longed for. Being highly sensitive, being kind of intense, being a little demanding, all the things I know and have heard. To be so accepted from the day I met you, just like I knew where you stood, I knew I could trust you. I knew I didn't have to scale over any walls to figure out who you were or what you were about. And then, like you said, coming into our calls, like no matter where I'm dashing from or what I was dealing with, as soon as I see you, my whole, like every cell in my body exhales. It's just like, hey, I'm home, I'm safe, I'm seen, I'm heard, I'm supported. It's so incredibly soothing to my nervous system, which I have said for many years, to care for me is to care for my nervous system because that's love to me. Yeah, and just how you validate when I'm going through a rough spot. You can validate and you can see how that would be difficult for me specifically. And that we laugh, that like I get belly aches in the best possible way sometimes and like have like the best laugh of the week with you, and sometimes it's just we see each other and we start giggling like we're at a sleepover or something.
Yeah.
But your greatest gift is just the way you love. Oh my goodness, the way you love is I'm getting emotional. It's the way I've wanted to be loved. So there's just something about how you hold me and how you see me that's like, damn, I feel so loved. And then I don't have to change a hair on my head, like that. Welcome as I am. Thank you.
Thank you, friend.
Thank you.
Wow. What another great podcast. Is it okay for me to say that as one of the podcast hosts? I just did.
Yeah. I think that was a pretty phenomenal conversation, and I'm saying it too.
It was, yeah. So, audience, thank you for those of you who listen, watch live, and those who are going to watch later. We appreciate you. We'll put everything that we talked about in the link. I'll put it on the YouTube channel. And if you typically watch us on Facebook, go to our YouTube channel and just hit subscribe. It helps us get more watchers, viewers, is that what they're called? Audience members?
I think so.
This is so not my jam. I don't know technology, but just hit subscribe. Love us by hitting subscribe.
And you'll get notified when we have new stuff. So like,
And yes, that too. Yeah.
And then also too, you know, I'm going to continue asking this because I do believe in us, and I want to shout out that we would love to be doing this to greater audiences, to help other people relate authentically, to be on other podcasts sharing this work. And honestly, I'm all up for like sponsors too.
Absolutely.
So if any of that's within your wheelhouse, or you know someone who knows someone who knows someone, and you believe in us, please let us know. Please connect us. I mean, it's all about community and our network, right? So, and if there's ways we can support you, please put something in the comments.
Yeah.
We read all the comments. So if there's a place you're struggling, or you're wanting support, or just want to be seen in something, you don't even want any helping, right? But you just want to proclaim something. This is a safe place to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
So much love.
See you next time.